Hello everybody and welcome here to another Kerfuffle showcase, and I am delighted to have the team from PropertyStream. We have Robin Arnold and Pernilla Twiddle. Hello to the pair of you.
Hello there, good to see you, Simon.
Hi. Animated, I like that. Sometimes I get a little bit of a sort of, but that was good. almost a salute there. Thank you, Robin. So that's great to do it. Guys, really pleased to have you on here today, especially as obviously I don't know at what stage digital hasn't been important, but websites even more so over the last year. We were talking off camera there about what just an insanely busy time it was for you. And I'm guessing that's the name of the game, isn't it? If somebody has if somebody has not been happy with their website previous to 2020, that was the year that was really going to shake them out of their apathy, wasn't it? In terms of looking at that and understanding they needed something more.
Yeah, I think the penny really dropped around sort of April last year, and we saw a massive change in our business, the amount of inquiries we had, and also, although we've had a steady flow of inquiries, it was people realising that actually we probably need to do a bit more, invest a bit more, and really get a brand across is so important, and just have a website that is as equal, if not more important, than a shop front. And it should be like your best, highest performing team member. That's the way you should see it, and you need to invest in it for those reasons, really. But I think although it's been tough the last sort of 5 years trying to sort of get that message across, but I think really about April last year, I think the penny really has dropped and things have changed for the better.
And I was going to say, I mean, I was going to say you were lucky. You weren't lucky at all because it was all hard work, but you had the ability to fall back on a portfolio of some absolutely fantastic agents. I won't steal the thunder because I know we're going to talk about a few of them in a bit more detail as we go through your presentation later on. But to be able to have that caliber of agents talking solidly about how you were able to help them step up to that next level is great, isn't it?
I think it's partly been luck, partly been hard work, but we worked with some really inspirational people over the last sort of 5 or 6 years since we've been in the property industry. We'll show a few examples of that in a mini presentation that we do, but I think we've really been blessed with some of the characters, really aspirational, forward-thinking people like Matt Nicole from Nicol & Co, and the original founders from UMove. They're a big inspiration for us, and still really good friends. And David Laycott sort of helped us with our business as a bit of a mentor since then, and even people like Mark Mayers is a good friend of ours. So it's a lot of people.
Brilliant agent, yeah.
Yeah, really good people. A good sort of group of clients, and we've been lucky enough to work with them.
So let's go back to the beginning then, guys, before we kick into the main bit. Just give us a bit of the background, how obviously people like to understand where you've come from, everything on that, both in terms of from your own personal backgrounds and the business itself.
Absolutely. So I've worked in some quite biggish sort of creative agencies over the years. I've been creative director of some biggish digital agencies and some biggish sort of branding agencies, and I've designed websites for some quite sort of big clients like Santander and Peugeot, and but I think it was around sort of 9 years ago we started our group company, which is 22 Group, and that's sort of based in Manchester, and we work in a whole variety of sectors with that, and that's always important. And anyone who's heard me sort of talking, doing my explanation of who I am, I've always said that that's a key part of who we are. The fact that we still work with charities, we still work with people in the finance sector, social housing, boutique hotels, and because we were able to take inspiration from these other sectors, and it's so important, even though probably around 60–70% of our business is with estate agents in the property sector. It's so important that we work with beyond that and we get fresh ideas from these other places, because I think it's easy to get a bit sort of fixed and narrow-minded if you're just doing the same thing day in, day out. So but yeah, that's my background. We sort of fell into the property industry around sort of 6 years ago, and that was when David and Glenn from UMove came knocking on the door, and we've never looked back, really.
And that point about becoming samey is a real issue, isn't it? Is for some website companies, and so having the ability to not get railroaded into a particular way of doing things because you're always on the lookout is a big benefit. I think the problem you get is a lot of the time you see agents doing, seeing that ability, and going to website companies outside of the industry precisely so that they aren't samey. But unfortunately, then you get the other side, the flip side of the coin, don't you? They because they have no experience, everything is reinvented, isn't it? The wheel is reinvented and everything else. So property feeds, property searches, everything else, and it just takes so long to get anywhere.
Do you want to talk about that, Vanilla? Because you've
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. Because I mean, so I've got I've worked in the last 8 years in the property industry, but prior to that, working in marketing across industry sectors really. And you're right, I've had lots of experience where we've dabbled with somebody outside the estate agency industry completely, and that has its merits, as you said, but it also created huge challenges because it's a very particular industry. It's probably one of the most complex estate agencies websites you can create. So I think that you have to have an element of understanding of those complex things like the search, and the feed, the property feed, but to be able to also work with other clients, the same team who are working on those sites, to then get insights from other industries. That's an absolute gem, I think.
Yeah, and I think that jumped out at me what you just said there. That's interesting that, you know, people are always underestimating this industry, aren't they? They always say we're terrible for adopting technology. We're waiting for this big disruptive tide and everything else. And you know, on the face of it, is the problem because it does look simple. You're just matching properties to people, and that's it. But the minutiae that goes into that, in terms of the complexity around searches, and then you know, does you only have to look at some of the car crash sites that have been done over the years, don't you, to see where people have gone wrong on that front.
No, exactly. And I think a good example really is you know, you find an IT manager, quite a techie person in another sector, in the travel industry or even the car industry, and you say, look, go and get your head around a property feed and try and connect this to this, and your two-way integrations and your lettings feeds, and see how you get on, and come back in a day's time and so let me know if you've got any questions, because it's complicated stuff, and that's
then you throw in an on the market early bird feed, and
exactly that. But it's so Panilla's right. They are probably one of the more complex websites out there, and certainly more complex than the average sort of portfolio website. So I think having some experience on those more complex aspects of it is well, ultimately it's going to mean the job's done quicker for less money, so you can concentrate on the important things like lead conversions and brand awareness. But also, I know we're repeating ourselves a bit here, it's so important that, you know, we don't just stop doing other things, and we're getting inspiration from other sectors. And we've got PropertyStream as well, and we're also doing a big sort of push at the moment with our 22 group brand to sort of Manchester businesses as well. We work with people from all over the world and estate agents in all parts of the country, but I don't think we've got enough clients from Manchester as well, which is you know, well, not my personal hometown, but where the office has always been. And so that's the real push, because it's such a cool place. Do you live in Manchester? Am I right?
Yeah, I'm just down the road from you, down in hip and happening Didsbury. Or
wow, amazing. It's such a cool place
when we're not being flooded. It's so is there any significance for the 22 group? Is there something clever I need to be aware of there? Or
it's really not very clever at all. You know, we started on 22 Lever Street, and I've always liked names in the Northern Quarter. I've always liked names that are numbers. There's nothing more to it than that.
Cool. No, that's fine. I just wanted. I thought if we were going to do the origin story properly, then we'd better find out on that level. Okay, guys. I think that gives us a really good idea, obviously, and that helps really understand from that point of view. Today, when I asked you what you wanted to talk about, you was talking about really how to build trust and become the chosen agent. I mean, I think that's what everybody would obviously would want to do. And we were going to kick off this on a 3-tier approach, weren't we? We were going to say what are the key ingredients for building trust with your brand? Number 2, what are the key ingredients for building trust with your website? And then for building trust with your marketing as well. I'm particularly interested how you've got kind of focused on that 3-point effect there. But should we kick off with the first one then, Robin? You mentioned your background was obviously from there. What are the key ingredients then for building trust with your brand, and why do you focus on it so?
Okay, no problem. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share my screen. We'll just get a few slides up. Let's just give this a bit of a prompt. So
got those? Yeah, cool.
Yep. So this is an amazing stat. I sometimes wonder how on earth people do get these stats, but it's on Google, so it must be right. It must be someone must have come up with it somehow. But 42% of consumers can't discern which brands are trustworthy, and we do get this a lot. With clients, and it really, especially on a website more than anything, you've got around 6 seconds, and that time it used to be 8 when we first sort of came into the market. Now it's 6 seconds, and well, that's going to get less. You've got about 6 seconds to give people a reason to trust you, or else they're going to go and do whatever, go and have a beer, a cup of tea, or more likely go to a competitor. So you've got a really short time frame to give them a reason to trust you. And you know, we're big techies. We've built, you know, some of the most technologically advanced websites in the industry over the years, and you know, I'm a big believer in these sort of two-way integrations and all the integrations you can have, like Locrating and Dataloft, and these are all brilliant. But ultimately, you know, your website and your brand has to convey trust, or else someone's not going to buy from you. All these other bits of technology are almost the medium, and they're very, very clever. But ultimately, you know, we need to give people a reason to pick you over a competitor.
Can I just ask a question straight away then, Robin? If so, do you think sometimes that people, you know, lose that trust element by trying to be too clever with what they're doing with the website?
I think it's really easy, yeah, to try and be too clever, and I think sometimes you just need to have a workshop away from tech and just say, what are we all about? What's our brand personality? What makes us different? What is our sort of brand story? And does our website shout about that? Can people get who we are and what our personality is within 5 or 6 seconds? Because if not, you know, they're probably going to shoot off and have a look at a competitor. So I do think that is the case sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks.
I also think, can I just butt in there? I also think that's why we wanted to break it down to branding, website, and marketing, because there's so much noise and there's so much, everything is happening so quickly. So I think you're right, Simon. I think people have got the tendency to just go, oh, we need to do this now. We need to go there. We need to integrate with that. And that's great. But have they actually sat back and thought about, if we do that, is that consistent then in what we're doing offline and online and on our digital? So it's kind of bringing it together and kind of almost taking a bit of a step back and getting the foundations right, and then you'll get it right across all those 3 streams. And I think that's when you see businesses win.
Great, thank you. Great feedback.
Okay, so I think your story is always a really good place to start. So anyone sort of see me do presentations, I nearly always start with a story. And today I'm going to start with your story, Simon. Because we've only actually met twice. Once in our London office, very quickly, when Graham Locke was doing that interview, and Chris. So that was for like a couple of minutes, and I think I made you a cup of tea or something, and then the launch event. So we've only met a couple of times, but because of your brand story, I feel like I know you. I feel like you're my best friend. I literally feel like I've known you my whole life, and that is because of, you know, what you've done, where you've been. Am I right in thinking? I'm not a stalker, just to be clear. But you know, people have told me this information, or you've told me this information via social media and stuff. Did you grow up in the Middle East, or?
Yeah, I did. I was born in Kuwait. That explains my dusky looks, like all these holy men. I was born in Kuwait and I grew up in Abu Dhabi. That's right. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't actually know for sure how I know that, but I do know that. It's not like you personally told me that.
I know, scary, isn't it? And,
yeah, and I know that I know that, you know, you've obviously had phenomenal success at Repeat, and so when I first sort of saw you, would have been on LinkedIn when someone at some stage, when we first came into the industry around 5 years ago, oh, you should check out Repeat and Simon, and you know, a really nice guy. So I had a look at you on LinkedIn, and I saw this image there, and I thought,
the Photoshop one.
Yeah. but then since then it's unravelled. I've seen a whole other side to you, and I'm on Facebook on Sunday late mornings, and I see you dancing around the front room, and I always chuckle, and you know I was like that one, because that's what we do in this garden office here. So I do, but I mean the serious point I'm getting to is this is your brand story. all these sort of, really cool, fun things that you can do and you can get away with are because you've had phenomenal success at Repeat, your background, people know you, and you built that story, and that is and really that's what companies should do. It's as important with people as it is with companies, and getting that story defined, because one thing that I say to people, and it's quite easy to forget, is right, what's that one thing that's different about you? Yeah. And that one thing is your story, because everyone's story is totally different. There's no two people in the entire world who have exactly the same story. So that's always a really good place to start when you're looking for a differentiator.
It absolutely is, isn't it? And it plays into EA Masters, obviously, where Peter managed to get Seth Godin, and obviously anyone in marketing knows the purple cow analogy there. And actually, agents themselves will quite often, in their more honest moments, talk about how they just struggle to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to see if they follow that identikit marketing thing that so many seem to just, to go down that approach.
Exactly, yeah. And agents will come to us and say, look, we're struggling to stand out. We know we're good at what we do, but ultimately we sell houses, and we follow very similar processes to our main competitors. And I always say, well, who are you? What is your story? Because that's the one thing that is very different. So in terms of my story, I've just briefly talked about this earlier on. So I worked as a consultant, creative director at some quite biggish agencies prior to starting 22 Group, and actually off the back of this, because I'd worked on the main corporate site for Santander with actually a really good developer called Jono. He was too busy. David and Glenn from UMove got referred to him. He was too busy. He knew that I'd do a good job of it, and so he referred them to me. And that was really our start in the property sector. So these two crazy guys came knocking on the door, and they said they wanted to build a brand around sheep. They wanted to build the most technologically advanced website in the industry. And we thought, what the heck, let's give it a go. We had no experience in the property sector whatsoever. And 3.5 years later, they sold it for 15 million. And we were lucky enough to have been a part of that journey, and lucky enough to have been part of closely worked with these guys, but then also the amazing team at the Property Franchise Group and UMove now. So then we learnt a lot from working with these guys, and really that got us into the property sector.
Well, they certainly knew how to stand out, didn't they? There was no blandness there.
That, yeah.
I only met the guys right at the end, actually, but that came through, and I think it is so important, because I'm not surprised at all what you said there at the beginning. What was it, the time you got on a website there, 8 seconds down to 6 seconds?
Yes. Yeah.
Reviews in general, text-based reviews, when I was looking into it, have decreased to almost a third of what they were 8 years ago. They're almost the size of a tweet. And again, probably that's not unsurprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
All around the world, we're seeing attention spans, just getting worse and worse and worse. And so to be able to seize that moment can never have been more crucial. Otherwise, that familiar bounce rate that people, a bluffer's guide as I have kind of to Google Analytics, I do understand the danger if you've got that at too high a level.
No, exactly. And although, it's one of those Marmite brands, it worked phenomenally well for these guys. Got them noticed. People liked how different it was. It was so fresh. And my wife did a lot of the illustrations, the sheep illustrations, and my business partner, Eddie. There was only sort of 3 of us at the time. He did a lot of the original sort of build on that first UMove website, which was really quite a complex website. And there wasn't like Purple Bricks that had millions and millions of pounds of funding. These guys didn't. So but it's and one of the things that Glenn was amazing at doing was just going around, not actually physically going around the world, but seeing what people are doing in other countries and other sectors, and what he used to call sweep and deploy, which is where you see an amazing idea that's been done in one sector, and you say, well, can we use this in the property sector? It's not been done by someone else. And that's what that first UMove website was particularly good at. Was just, it's one of the first websites to do the things like the booking into the booking diaries, and the 2-way integrations back with the CRM that they actually pretty much built themselves. And so yeah, it was we learnt a lot. They did a lot of testing as well. That's another thing that that we were able to pick up on was all the A/B testing that was done in terms of where should things be positioned, how many stages a form should have, and bits like that. And it was like gold dust for us. And during that process, I suppose we just thought, well, we actually really like the property sector. We like the people in it. I think it gets a bad name, but I think generally, agents for me are very sort of quite aspirational, ambitious types of people. They're entrepreneurs, and I always like that. So we haven't really looked back. So I think the next one for us is values. This is really important, and I think it's one of the things we've talked a lot about over the years is brand values and how important these should be on your website and your brand and everything else. But it's not something we've done a huge amount ourselves until about a year and a half ago. So we invested a lot of time into defining our own brand values, and being friendly is one of them. And that's actually, I think, part of the reason we've grown our team so much in this last year is people have sort of connected with our values. And I think that's one of the reasons we're lucky enough to have Vanilla with us. So
yeah, no, that's right. No, I think I obviously knew Robin a little while back, but you've done a really good job in communicating those brand values, because they did really align with myself. And so when we started having a conversation about me joining 22 Group, it just felt like it was such a great fit. And even to the point where we've carried on using those really strongly in everything that we do, both internally and externally. And we've expanded the team phenomenally the last year. Funnily enough, all the people followed me after have joined in lockdown, as I did, which is crazy. But so we've not actually, there's a lot of people there that we still need to meet face to face, which is unreal. But yeah, absolutely, they've helped in kind of recruitment, everything. So for sure, brand values and what you stand for is very, very important.
But how prevalent do you think it is in the estate agency industry itself? Do you find many agents are, I was going to say, on the ball, or do you have that level of focus that they want to be dealing with companies that have that same level of brand values? How common do you think it is?
I'll go for that one. No, I think that they need a little bit of helping hand to get to the bottom of what their values are, because we ask them all the time. So we have typically we'll have an initial strategy session with an estate agent, and we'll talk about what are your brand values, and they go, oh, and they normally stumble and they go, well, that doesn't start well. That means we probably don't even know what they are. But all of them will always have them. It just takes, perhaps it takes an outsider to look in to actually get to the point of getting them up to the front, and also documenting it, and documenting something like your values as part of a sort of tone of voice, and we call a brand positioning statement, is hugely beneficial, because once you have it documented, everyone gets quite excited by it. They all know what they stand for, and you can streamline everything that go on from there. So your branding, your website, your marketing, you've got something to fall back on. So they do often need a bit of help, but there's always something there. And as Robin said, it often lies in the story. How did you start? And let's really get to the bottom of where are you unique? What are your unique selling points? And what do you stand for? Once you have that documented, you're on a really good path.
Excellent. Thank you. That's really helpful.
And then, so actually, this moves me on to one of our favourite clients. We've been working with them for around sort of 6 years, almost. They were one of the first clients after you move, and is Mayors down in Poundbury. So I'm really good friends with Mark and Claire, and we actually built their brand around that. I was just going to say then is that we've got two animal-based brands, so I don't want to be known as the person who only creates animal-based brands, but there was just a complete coincidence. It wasn't deliberate. I didn't push him in that direction. We showed a number of different routes for Mayors, and he liked the animals. So, but it has worked really well for him. It's a very sort of different style of illustration, but whereas you move, sheep is the whole theme. With Mayors, the animals represent the brand values, and it's been so successful for them. And
works really well, doesn't it?
And I think that's gone really well for him. And I think he had just one head office, I think, at the time, and now he's got 8 or 9 franchisees, and that's going really well for him. And he's looking to sort of take that national. And we had a bit of a brand refresh around a year and a half ago. It's all around sort of maturing the brand. Toning back some of the bright colours And we did discuss, and he brought up, he said, Robin, do you think we should actually move on from the animals now? And I said to him, look, Mark, this has worked so well for you. This is your brand. This is part of your story. This is, these are, these are your brand values. And you've got to remember, Mark, that up in other parts of the country, people won't have seen this brand. And so it's going to have the same impact on them as it did with the kids who were taking pictures of for sale boards around Poundbury, when it first came up around there. So the Proudly Reliable with the pug, and having the for sale boards and having the different animals on the for sale boards has worked really well for them. So you get to choose which animal you want. And there has been that story of kids taking pictures of the different animals and doing top trumps with it at school. So it's such a simple concept, but it's worked really well for them.
Looks really good. Looks really good.
Okay, so 92% of consumers trust referrals from people they know. So I can really believe this one. I don't know how, once again, they came up with it, but I think, those Google reviews and Trustpilot reviews and FIFO reviews, these are all great. And I think, what we're finding actually more and more, I mean, I'm a big believer in all of those, is that actually, because Google's such a well-known brand, from the research that we're doing, that people tend to believe Google. I don't know why they do, but I suppose it's because it is such a big brand. But whoever you use for your platforms, they're all brilliant. You need to make the most of them. And I think just an example, in those early days, that was one of the things that YouMove did phenomenally well, was really spend a lot of time and investment in terms of building up their Trustpilot reviews. So they were able to say the UK's #1 rated agent by customers, because on Trustpilot, they had more 5-star ratings than any other agent in the country. And
it's a very clever way, isn't it, of really focusing on what's important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those key ingredients, I think, in terms of that sort of phenomenal growth in those early days. And I mean, I'll start this one off when we were working with Parker's Property Franchise Group, and part of the brief there was, they were getting Purple Bricks, spending a lot of time in Reading, and they were sort of shipping in agents from outside Reading to be local experts. And whereas the actual franchisees at Parker's, they grew up in the area, the kids went to the local schools, and they supported the local schools. And so this was one of the branch owners' kids in the football kits. There's a bit of a double whammy there. So you've got, obviously, we know the local schools because our kids go to them, but also we're supporting them as well. And it's all about the sort of local presence and trust. Anything to add to that, Pamela, in terms?
No, I think that's strong. I think we'll go on and talk a bit about strong local presence, why that's important later on. But yeah.
Cool. And then, okay, consistency. It's one of those boring ones. It's one of those boring ones that, oh no, my branding agency is talking about consistency. And I want to go off and do this, and I want to do that, and they're just trying to keep me on the straight and narrow. I mean, I know sometimes it can come across as a bit boring, but brands that are consistently presented are 4 times more likely to be trusted.
But they can't be surprised by that, can they, Robin, as well? Because considering how many times it takes to ask somebody to do things like prospecting calls and everything else, there is, there's a famous phrase, not famous enough for me to remember who said it, but it's that point, just as you think that you're starting to really piss people off and annoy them, is actually the first moment they're starting to hear from you.
Yeah. No,
that always makes sense, because we hear about people time and time again that fall down this route. Great.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think in terms of consistency, this is one of my favourite sort of branding projects over the years, particularly in the property sector with White Gates. I think had around sort of 45 branches, predominantly sort of up north. And at some stage they'd lost the White Gate. They were synonymous, really famous for their White Gate adverts, and they were the first to do no sale, no fee. I think in the late 70s, and they had the first to do TV advertising. But at some stage, the White Gate disappeared. So I was very privileged with the challenge of reinvigorating the brand and coming up with a new White Gate. And what was so fun about this was we actually asked all the franchisees to vote on which was their sort of favourite gate, and we picked this one that was sort of doubles up as a W there, so you got a W and a gate. And what was so nice about that is they all got on board, and they all felt like they were part of it, and they embraced the brand. And what's so good about that is if you've got your staff and your team I'm really into your brand, is they become your best disciples, and that helps with trust as well.
Of course, because there's so many employees at corporates that just feel no connection, aren't there?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's and that's the thing is you know, even if you have however many branches you've got, you've still got to make it feel like it's local. You still got to make it feel like it's familiar, and that's what we did with these guys. We did these sort of stunning illustrations from, actually, I've forgotten his name now, but a really good illustrator sort of based in Stockport, and he does these really sort of intricate illustrations. And we got each of the branches to pick their favourite building in their town. So quite often it was the town halls, and you've got these absolutely sort of stunning northern town halls, Victorian town halls, and we did sort of Leeds, and we did Barnsley, and we did Liverpool, the Liver building, which I know you know very well, and so each of them, even though you've got this big brand, they all feel like it feels local. It feels part of them. They were you know, they were part of sort of choosing the logo, the boards, but also the building, and so it feels local, even though it's a big 45 branch brand.
Yeah.
But it's all consistent. That's the thing, as you can see that it's all really consistent. And we're doing a sort of similar thing with some campaigns with Nickel & Co. All sort of, whatever we do with him, it's really targeted. And this is what Penilla's brought so much to the table in terms of, you know, her experience with hunters and really sort of targeted marketing campaigns. But and we're going really granular with the stuff we're doing with Matt and Nickel & Co. at the moment in terms of his campaigns. So whatever we do, whether it's his original launch campaign, whether it's a Christmas campaign, and we've got some examples Penilla's going to go through a bit later of some really targeted campaigns. But it's all about consistency.
Yeah, just you know, on the Whitegate challenge, just sorry, quickly to go back on that. You know, they've got so many branches, but obviously, again, just pulling from my time at Hunters, where we had, you know, nearly 200 branches. That was a massive challenge. It was always the key challenge. How do we make the franchisees sound local? Because there is a bit of a rebellion against big brands and national corporates, and there's, at the same time, as being a massive kind of win for anything local. So that helps, but how do you then portray them as local, and what do you do about that? And it's, again, that was the biggest challenge, but it's making sure that you're consistent, making sure that you bring out the, like you said, the local, whether it's landmarks or whatever it is. But there's so many channels that you need to consider to make sure that you're covering it. So it can be video. You know, video is super powerful to project yourself as being local. But yeah, and again, do agents that have more than one location do struggle with that? How do we make sure that, because they want to sound big, but at the same time they need to be absolutely hyper local for the audience, because that's what people trust and what they like. So they're challenges that we like them, we take them on, and we help them get to a point where they can deliver exactly what they need.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so in terms of how to build trust with a website, so we talked a bit about reviews earlier. Now there's different things you can do. You know, reviews is always a good thing. People trust what someone else has said far more than themselves sometimes, which I suppose kind of makes sense if someone else is referring you. But it's how can we really get across, I think, reviews. That's the meet the team one. But I think for me, it's sort of video reviews are probably the best way of doing that, because video reviews, you know, you're not going to make it up. You're going to be pretty hard pressed to actually pay an actor to come in and give you a really good review. So there's a realness about video reviews that you just can't. Even if you've got 5,000 Google reviews, I think there's nothing better than getting someone like Matt, you know, doing a nice video review for us. And I just don't see enough websites, estate agency websites, that have video reviews. I've been banging the drum for the last sort of 5-6 years. They've had the. It's not like it's a new bit of tech getting a YouTube video up on YouTube.
And that's exactly the point, isn't it, Robin? You know, they didn't spend all that money on YouTube because they saw the way things were going, and of course, famously, it is one of the biggest search engines in its own right now, just on that basis, isn't it?
Yeah. No, exactly, and it's and then so I think the next one on the list. So we've got team profiles. And it's another one that it's you know, there's so much fun you can have with team profiles, and I think video team profiles is probably the way of the future. Very few agents websites, you know, have video. And it doesn't have to be everyone, even if it's just one or two.
Yeah.
One bit of amazing stats that I think a lot of people don't know about, and this is when we were doing a lot of visitor tracking with one of our sort of bigger clients a few years ago, is we had a real focus on lead generation and conversion rates and call to actions and forms, and because that's how your website's going to earn you money. But when we were doing the visitor tracking, there was always a number of people who would just, they'd ignore all the call to actions, the instant online valuations, downloadable guides, and they'd go straight to the meet the team page, and they'd spend 25-30 minutes reading all the bios of all the people, and we'd watch them just, you know, go from one to the next, and this is not something we could have predicted because we were so focused on sort of lead generation and forms and call to actions. But it's like, it's just proof in the pudding that people, there's a certain sector of the community that you know, whether that's older, younger, I don't know, probably the older generation, who just really interested in who they're going to be working with. They want to know the people. It's a big investment for them. Are these people trustworthy?
That's a growing theme these days, isn't it? Is that, you know, whether it started with kind of the eco movement, neither here nor there, but that point about is, look, it's not always possible to work with brands that you like, but there is definitely a preference to work with those ones if you possibly can do.
Yeah.
And that is the clearest and easiest. I mean, what comes across from here, just looking at this, Chinnickshaw, I know straight away is a fun organisation, isn't it?
Yep.
They don't take themselves too seriously. There's no pomposity, and that's not taking anything away from the professionalism or anything else there.
No.
That shows confidence in themselves as a brand.
Yeah.
And if you are not that like-minded, you know, this tells you far more than any of those about us corporate, you know, tech-based things than you could ever hope for, couldn't you?
Yeah. They really are lovely people, and I really don't want to go off on a tangent, but what we've been able to do with them is they're based in Portsmouth, a really sort of modern contemporary brand that was all sort of themed around. It's one of those branding jobs that you sort of dream of when you're sort of at uni or something. It's like we've been able to use the actual sort of shipping signs, so the Royal Navy and the shipping sort of signs that they use, and sort of build the actual sort of brand around those sort of really graphic symbols, and that was, you know, really contemporary way of doing that. But then at the same time, when you've got a really graphic, modern, contemporary brand like that, you have to be really careful that you don't lose that human side of it.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we were talking about. It can be too easy as a designer saying, oh, I want it to be really minimalist and clean, and because that's my personal design style. And that's why, you know, we've had to be really careful and just, you know, make sure we don't lose sight on the fact that they're some of the nicest people, Chinnickshaw, you're ever going to meet. Certainly. And so we need to get that across it in the branding. We need to, you know, make a real focus on the Meet the Team page and do campaigns about sort of, you know, driving people directly to it and stuff. So
yeah, I think, I mean, it's never going to go away, the fact that people buy from people, don't they? And I think it's incredible really that a lot of estate agents perhaps just overlook that Meet the Team page, and actually that is one of the most important pages where they need to spend some focus and really bring out the team. Especially look what's happened the last year when, as we said before, doors had to shut. The only way people could see them was online, and all of a sudden they realized their Meet the Team page was probably 2 years out of date. They had staff members who'd moved on, and you think, well, that they've got that, obviously they realize, a lot of people did realize that's not good enough, we're gonna have to do something about it. And if you can have a bit of fun and be inventive, as we showed with Chinnickshaw, that's great. There's so much you can do.
Do you think, Pernilla, that one of the issues, we were talking about this just on a purely on another point the other day, and the only thing we could come to the conclusion why the Brits don't focus on the individual as much as obviously the Americans and the Australians is because they have a fear of their staff being poached and headhunted. And we said, obviously, first of all, we said that's crazy, because if you don't look after your staff, if you don't give them the ability to shine and be recognised, then actually you're only encouraging them to actually set up by themselves or go elsewhere. Do you think that's it, or is it simply just that we've just got stuck in that way of doing things?
I think it's more the latter. I think it's a very cynical view to think I'm not gonna drive my workforce or develop them so that in case somebody poaches them. There might be a few that think like that, but again, you've got training and personal development in estate agency is crucial, isn't it? And you've got to bring that to the fore. You will always stand a risk that you will lose some people, but no, I think it's more a case of maybe a little bit of just good old, sort of being a bit more conservative, in this country, and maybe, that it's not our way to shout about personalities and bring them to the fore.
Well,
I mean, I'm allowed to say that because I'm not 100% British, or not at all British, but I mean, I love that about Britain, but I think that might be one of the reasons. And I think it is, it's definitely something that I think something like Chinook Shaw will hopefully show other people that you should do it. You should have a bit of fun with it. Yeah,
spot on, absolutely spot on. Thank you, Robin. That was fantastic. It was lovely to understand that. So we've got all that aspect in terms of the brand now and everything else there. So what else do we need to discover in terms of how you can obviously help build trust?
Sure. Okay. Yep. So I'll whiz through some more of these. So there are just a couple more. There's some really nice, actually, sort of clear and targeted marketing messages. So I think this is a nice one to go on, but we've got relatable design. Just a quick one on this is the fact that I don't know whether you do remember or not, but when I first came into this sort of creative industries around 20 years ago, it was really tough to get nice stock imagery. It tended to be those really cheesy American, those big white teeth, and those really horribly sort of, they're almost alarming sort of smiles that they had, and just so perfect looking. But now you can actually get some really good stock imagery, and it doesn't have to cost £400 an image. There's a few stock libraries now where they've got some really good stock, actually good photographers. And I've worked with some of the best photographers in the UK, and some of the shots that you'll see on stock libraries now, you can see that they've been doing some for them, and so it's really improved. So you can get that really relatable type of image now, and ones like this where you've got a lovely front room, you've got a dad could really relate to this. They could say that could be me in this lovely front room with the big windows and and a happy, and it's not cheesy, it's not forced, it looks natural, and I think
that's all about telling a story by imagery, then, isn't it? We're always looking for that context of the story, and whether that is visually or, as we said, by being able to with the spoken word, just needs to reinforce everything you're doing on your site, doesn't it?
Exactly that. Yeah, people need to feel that it's sort of familiar to them. So if I'll go and find some of those examples. Billy, do you want to talk about the clear and targeted messaging?
Yeah, when it comes, sure. So again, we have Nickel and Co. We built 12 very specific landing pages that were hyper targeted to an audience type. So looking to level up, for example, or are you downsizing, or are you looking to retire? And that was great, but then it kind of, again, we needed to take it a step forward and say, well, how can we help you absolutely maximize on these assets? So we're delivering campaigns for him now that makes sure that every month he gets social media assets that relates to exactly that landing page, a blog that talks about that, an advert that talks about that he uses, I think, in his local sort of newsletter distribution. And all of a sudden he's got a full campaign. So it's talking about those touch points, but it's bringing it together, because I think we've said, I think it takes, I mean, the number is always argued, but definitely between 6 and 8 touch points before anybody takes a decision or buys anything. So it's having that consistency of message and having it clearly focused is what we find a lot of people are still struggling with. So again, helping them formulate campaigns and making sure that it's then delivered across every sort of omni-channel that you're looking at using.
Do you think complexity is the biggest trap that people fall into? Because I'm terrible for it. Josh Fegan, you'll know him well, the Aussie trainer. He regularly and publicly ridicules the emails he gets from me, because I have what I think a lot of people struggle with. I don't want to leave anything out on what I think might be the one pitch. So you end up with a War and Peace email, and that can lead onto a website as well, can't it? Because you have this paranoia of missing the point that might be relevant to that niche. It's a really brave decision, but a necessary one, isn't it, to understand that less is more.
Absolutely. And that's a frequent conversation we have with a lot of clients. But it's interesting that I'm seeing a shift now. They're almost coming to us now saying, I think we need less is more, which is interesting because it's turned around. But it is the case of doing that. And it's being brave, saying, right, we're going to put this message up. But you've got so many platforms and prop tech stuff that will help you with the targeting. And, Google, everything that you do in terms of marketing as well can be hyper targeted. So it's taking a step, being brave and saying, right, this campaign is focusing purely on how to change of circumstances. So again, there was a blog on that, there were social media visuals for that, there was the website landing page, there was adverts going out locally, and a video that the guys created in-house as well, but we helped with the copy. So it's taking that sort of leap of faith that we don't have to do everything at once. But you're right, complexity and the need that they have to do everything at once is what causes a stumbling block for a lot of people.
Do you think that point that you said, the trend of people coming to you and saying less is more, is because actually one of the fantastic things in a digital marketing environment now is that you can measure almost down to the nth degree, can't you, how successful almost every element is. So they're able to, whereas before it would be a judgment call, a gut feel call, now they're able to just see, look, there's no argument in these stats. Look at these simple campaigns we ran. Here's the conversion ratios there. Look at the ones where you've gone to town and they've had a much lower rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, that estate agents, they're also normal consumers of everything else. And we are getting to a point when we're absolutely almost tired because we've got information overload. And so they're almost realizing themselves, well, I'm never reading these long-winded reviews anymore. I just want to watch a video about what it's about. So I think it's realizing that in their own consumption, that also brings that to their business decisions, which is great. So I think that is definitely how it's heading. Now I see you put on your hat, so I must join you in my pre-prepared cocktail, Robin. So how Robin and I actually met, first of all, was because he put me on that terrible Streamliner interview and I had to be like with a cocktail and you were in your charming hat. But yeah, so I brought a cocktail just in case you put your hat on, and you did.
But the thing is I was rooting around early.
I'm gonna have a drink now.
I was supposed to put it on at the beginning, you see, but I lost it, so it had gone down there. So that's why I was rooting around at the beginning.
I thought I was being set up there for something. I looked up and then, oh, okay, fine. Okay.
No, but I was supposed to say at the beginning, well, the best way to convey trust is to get a sailor's hat. It's as simple as that. It's no more complicated than that. But
and a cocktail.
Exactly.
I think I prefer Panilla's. Her approach to cocktails is that spectacular. Well done.
Well, now I know you're in Manchester, Simon. There's that. We need to get you have to on that Streamliner. It's been in dry dock for almost a year now, so.
It's waiting to sail, Simon. It's waiting to sail just for you.
I'm up for that whenever. Up for that whenever. Building trust through going on the pot.
And drinking cocktails during the day. That's really what it's all about. But it's no. But anyway, back to business. They're so targeted, these campaigns. It's phenomenal. It's been absolutely so. You've had a change of circumstance landing page, dealing with a probate sale, looking to develop. Growing family, and I think there's about 11 of these in total that we created for Matt. And I mean, he has such amazing ideas, and actually, I know he doesn't mind. Well, he doesn't normally mind us sort of sharing these insights. I think he got these from Josh Fegan, sort of saying that how targeted they are with Josh Fegan is with his marketing, really sort of granular. And
how important is it, Robin? I've seen a lot of things you're showing here, but they tend to be standalone landing pages. Do you have a firm view that this should always be part of the website, or is it just that people use landing pages because often it's easier to set up and get changed?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. We do get it, and so this is part of the website. It's just not accessible by the navigation. So we're not able to sort of create a sort of separate bit of technology or something like that. Yeah. It's just a page on the website it's on the same URL, which means it can look good, because the downside of sometimes the landing pages, they're great, but they look terrible because someone's used Infusionsoft landing page builder or something like that. And we've tried all that in the past. So So with this example, we've got a nice landing page as part when we're building the website, and they're just so easy to replicate. You know, it only takes in. We use WordPress, which is just a phenomenally sort of powerful platform. It's really easy to update and amend, and you know, you can copy that page in a couple of seconds, and all you really need to do is do some really targeted content for it and change the image, and you've got a powerful landing page there.
Yeah, lovely.
Okay, and then so nearly there with the website one. So if I yeah, let's go on to the marketing now. I'll hand it over to you. I can stop rabbling on.
Okay, so this is the third part of the, obviously, the building trust in the marketing element. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it all links in. But yeah, so there's loads of variations of the 3 R's, but the one I'm going to use is reach, relevance, and repetition. Now we've already talked quite a lot about that, but it is absolutely important that in this incredible amount of noise that you're not just blurting out everything to everybody. I mean, we've known that for a while, but I guess it's helping companies in the estate agency industry to do just that. So reach is always going to be important, but you need to have the relevant subject, and you need to repeat something at least 8 times before I think they take a proper decision. So it's about making sure that you do that. I think I read somewhere the other day that between 5,000 and 30,000 brand messages are thrown to us every day.
Yes,
so
right,
you know,
yeah.
I think, you know, again, it just goes to show that once you get your reach and your relevance correct, don't be afraid of repeating it a number of times, because not everyone will see it all those times. So it's not rocket science, but it's just important to remember that. Do you want to go on to the next slide, Robin? Oh, we've got, yeah, so again, we've talked about this now, but this is the Nickel & Co. again, making sure that it's relevant to the audience that you're speaking to, and you're putting it out on the channels that they're likely to see.
And then just exactly the same thing. Risk consistency there. Got the same message. You've got online, you've got offline, and even with a website launch campaign, Matt did some leaflets, and that's that multi-channel thing. It's like we're trying to get people to a website, but we're sending them a leaflet that's coming through the door, and that's because Penilla's a big believer of this, and we always have been that you know, we're primarily digital, but there's still a room for offline and print marketing, and actually,
I was going to ask you on that. You know, a lot of people talk about omni-channel, don't they?
Yeah.
You're a firm believer. I mean, it always seems like it's just blatantly obvious, but I mean, I think when you see digital campaigns combined with the analog, they can be really powerful, can't they?
Yeah. Exactly that. As long as it's consistent, as long as the message is the same, and when people have seen something come through the letterbox, they've seen a Facebook advert, they've seen an email, it all ties up with each other. They think, yeah, these guys must be the real deal. This must be serious. We should trust them.
Yeah.
And you know, everyone says it. I know Penilla's just said it 6, 7, 8 times. People need to see that message before they think, right, I'm ready to buy from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then that leads me on to, well, Penilla on to one of the next ones. So I'll give a brief intro into this one, but ease of consumption. Penilla's going to talk about the marketing analogy for this, but on a personal level, when I came to your launch, you made it really easy to consume, because you kept buying us shots over and over and over again. You made it amazing, and what that built up. I thought, this is a really nice guy. He's making a real effort. He's buying us lots of drinks. We've had an amazing time, and I feel like I'm best mates with you. And I've only ever seen you and had like a 10-minute chat with you. So you made it very easy to consume that night, Simon.
Good. I've always believed on that.
Yeah, we knew that there'd be a reference to drink when I wrote that, and I actually wrote it, ease of consumption, and Robin even looked oddly at me, and he said, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, I know what I mean, but perhaps it's what I call a Penillaism, because I do come up with words that don't really make any sense at times, which is interesting. But what I did mean is that you've got to make sure that your marketing and anything you're putting out there is easy to consume for the audience that you're talking to. So for example, you've got your first time, but it's easy to just plonk everything onto a website and think, there you go, we'll share the website link. You need to have first time buyer guides that are easily accessible as a downloadable guide, because they're more likely to want to just read it on their phones.
Yep.
that kind of thing. You need to have login areas, because then that type of audience are not going to probably want to pick up the phone in the first instance. They want to do everything online. And on the other side of the spectrum, you may have people who are looking to downsize or retire, who actually might want to consume the information you're putting to them via a flyer that comes through the door. That's all it means. Again, no rocket science there, but just an important one to remember. Get the channels right to your audience, and then make it easy for them to consume what you want to tell them. Does that make sense now? So it's nothing to do with drinking.
I'm disappointed, but luckily, luckily you took it back to a business point of view. Do you think it's important that they have to have the ability to kind of self-identify what they are, or
no, I do. Well, think about yourself. I mean, aren't you like that? Don't you kind of almost want to see yourself when you're looking at something? So hold up a mirror is a typical thing that we always say. You do want to be able to associate yourself, see yourself in that it's again, it brings you into it. You're engaging with that brand, and then you're going to trust it. So I do think that's important.
Okay.
The other one we had was customer service. Again, there's nothing like customer service to actually drive that key ingredient, which is ultimately a recommendation or a referral. So customer service, monitor that through metrics and announce it through marketing. A lot of people do the first part really right. We've talked about some of the excellent platforms, so Trustpilot, FIFO, whatever you want to use. My view is that Google is still king, so you need to make sure you get your reviews on there. But also, don't forget to leave it there. Take it a step further and make sure that you announce that through your marketing. Have campaigns built around your customer success. That's a nice, easy piece, but a lot of people forget about that. So, you could, for example, use your Google reviews and place them on a template and share them on social media. Not many people do that, but there's an easy way to do it, and we can show you how. And that kind of, again, it takes the conversation to another bigger audience. So it's just making sure that, and if you can, even measure your own success. So have your own sort of customer survey would be kind of a 10 out of 10, because you're creating your own data set that belongs to you, and you can then use that in your marketing, which is really strong.
Brilliant. Yeah. Really good point.
Yeah, and then I think this is my final point, and again, probably a little bit of the same, but if you think of your touch points as everything that you're doing to build that trust, is you got to get yourself out there on all these omni channels. You've got to get known. Then you want to convince people to like you in whatever way that means, and then they will gain that trust, and then they will buy from you. But the interesting thing about the recommendation, which I've always said is probably the best form of marketing you could ever get, that is then cutting the circle out. So you could, once you've got your recommendation, that certain sector of audience will go straight to trust you and buy from you straight again. So you don't have to start from the top.
Yeah.
So when people come to us, though, the interesting thing there is they come to us and they might say, yeah, but we're doing great. I get everything from referrals and recommendations, so I don't need to do any marketing. And to be fair, if I'm brutally honest, if you have no ambition to elevate your brand or business or grow your revenue, maybe that's absolutely fine. You're doing a great job. You're obviously getting it right. You've got excellent customer service. You're being referred and recommended, which is great. But that doesn't, if most people will obviously want to grow their business, increase revenue, and reach those other audiences. And then you've got to do your marketing and your campaigns to reach those ones that sit at the top, that have to begin with the know, like, and trust. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It absolutely, totally makes sense to me. I mean, what I love about this is it is a virtuous circle there, isn't it? So if you keep them out, but first of all, you have got to get clients of that ilk into the mix, haven't you? To be able to do it. And again, just to go back to another Aussie, fantastic, Tom Panos always talks about the attraction agent. When you've done enough, when you've been noticed enough, that it stops from being prospecting calls out to incoming calls, obviously, in terms of that new marketplace. So I absolutely love that as an image, and just in terms of a mindset as well. But yes, never. And it is true, isn't it? Some people can have fantastic lifestyle businesses and just keep it kind of swirling around on recommendations. But there is still perfectly reasonable as well to be doing all the other stuff to keep growing that circle. as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
absolutely.
And it's just to round it up, if you think about it, this is kind of what happened. So I didn't really know you that well. Kevin Ellis recommended I come along. We're in London that day anyway. Come along to the Kerfuffle launch. So I kind of invited myself. So I hope you don't mind that. So I hadn't really known you before that.
Yeah.
I really liked you. You were incredibly friendly. You're very welcoming. You bought us lots of drinks, and that made me like you. And then I started then off the back of it. I followed you on, I connected to you on Facebook. And so I started seeing you dance in the front room. And I thought that's great because that's what we do in our garden office. So, and actually, although, they might be quite fun, non-work related things, off the back of that, I got to know a bit more about you. And off the back of that, I trusted. And I suppose here we are, I'm really happy and lucky to be a member of Kerfuffle now. So
it feels like a mix between This Is Your Life and, I don't know, some sort of rogue traders going on. I don't know whether you're going to hit me there.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think it's a wonderful touch point, isn't it, though, just to show how things work here, and actually how over the course of, what was that, 18 months ago, 2 years as well, and you can talk about, that's really what agents need to start thinking about, isn't it? Stop fighting over the listing email that you've got from one of the portals where everybody else is fighting. You've built up no trust, no likability. Start looking at the likes of the Matt Nichols and who was the Portsmouth agency again? Just
Sure.
I mean, I already like those guys. I know at the very next conference, I'm making a beeline for that lot.
Good.
It's really, really clever, and I think it's, there's lots of research, and I haven't seen it copied in this country, but it is done internationally, that shows that when you have those long-term relationships with people, with potential vendors, and you list unopposed, you actually pay a slightly higher fee because you are obviously, you're not there asking for the big discount or anything else, because largely they're going to do the job with you, and you've predefined it yourself, haven't you? And that's got to be a model worth chasing and nurturing, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean I think it goes without saying, but people do forget it, but trust drives profits, and it's as simple as that. And if you can go in at that point where you gain in the customer's trust, you don't even have to have the conversation around the fee. Your conversation is entirely different. They trust you already. They want to work with you, and I think that's where every agent probably wants to be at. And a lot of them, and don't get me wrong, a lot of them do it brilliantly already, but others need a little bit of help getting there.
But what I love about what I'm seeing from you is you're not just a website company, are you? This is a full cradle to grave, whole marketing brand mix, and obviously that's what we're so cleverly talking about. Trust, all three elements of that leads to that long-term trust and profitability. I'm a huge fan. You mentioned reviews. I'm a huge fan of Net Promoter Score. And as you'll know yourselves, those companies that have stellar Net Promoter Scores benefit from what they call long-term profits. Well, not anyone, but lots of people can can price gouge, make short-term profits, but it's unsustainable. By delivering customer service, by delivering trust, by delivering that referral business back, that's how you end up with a business for decades, not just for years.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes a bit of time. And there was, I can't remember the name of him. You probably watched it as well. That EA Masters, that branding guy who did that talk the other week. Was it? Yeah, and he talked about brand awareness a lot in that, and he talked about that playing the long game, and really that is a lot of big agencies, a lot of big companies, whoever they are, whatever sector they're in, they play the long game because they know that in the end they're going to be better for it. So
and he made a massive point about attention, isn't it? The key driver of why people like Netflix and Apple are trying to launch TV and everything else is to get continual FaceTime and everything else. Exactly, and that's how so much of what you've been touching on here today is just, again, making sure that when you get your opportunity that you remember that business and that individual as much as anything. Great, guys. Well, we've been talking about obviously for others and everything else, but it's got to be obviously for me to say as well. I encourage anybody. These guys are obviously fantastically passionate, knowledgeable as well. It sounds like, you know, it sounds like I wouldn't trust anyone that didn't have these guys' values. You've been really kind as well in helping our Kerfuffle members out as well by saying that you will do again, just like you have done today, a three-pronged deal for them, a free website and branding strategy session with yourself, Robin, including a free mock of what a new website could look like for you, worth over £1,500, 10% discount on all new website projects, plus free website marketing launch campaign, including blogs, social media, and PR release. Then on the branding side, yeah, there's more, as Jim used to say, free brand positioning statement and tone of voice document. And on marketing, a free animated social media visual and blog post with a campaign theme to suit your needs, e.g. valuation focus, customer testimonial, or how-to guides. You are insane. Let me tell you this. If you're thinking about doing something in this area and you don't talk to these guys on the back of that offer, again, get off my site. I'm not interested in you. That's look, that genuinely, don't go to these guys and waste their time, because that's a lot of time and energy they're putting into this. They're playing the long game. They're doing the reciprocity. They know if they do this for you and you are serious and you see the value there, then you're going to be long-term clients of theirs, like so many of those people are in the business. But I think that's fantastic. And I just need to say again, look, go and have a look on PropertyStream, on Kerfuffle there. Search it just anywhere on Google, it'll get you there. Because there's fantastic reviews there for the likes of Paul Donovan, 5-Star Writing Co. Talks, just again, I said at the beginning how, you know, the reviews, text reviews, they were going down to this. I'm not going to read it out. It's about 15 pages he's gone to. You've got Chris Ellis from Harrison's again, understood us and what we were about. Now, again, the actual full review is much more, but that in itself, you're talking about the clarity and conciseness, is brilliant. And I'll leave it. We've touched on him before, and he's a long-time fan, stroke panelist, stroke stalker of this show, Mr. Matt Nichol himself. Obviously, we're really proud, like you were talking before. We love having video reviews on our platform. There's an honesty from it, and Matt stepped up to the plate there and has given a brilliant one. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably edit it onto the end of this for everyone to have a look at it as well there. So they can reach you. They can obviously reach you from clicking on the I'm interested button. How else can they find you guys?
Just always emailing me, pick up the phone to me. That's probably the most direct route. Don't need to go to an inquiry form or so yeah, just the normal routes. Email me, pick up the phone, and yeah, we'll have a chat and get something booked in.
Well, I was a bit worried there, given how much you've been able to stalk me today. I thought you'd just know where to go to, how to find them. But
But it's nice and easy. It's just robin@22group.co.uk or Pernilla@22group.co.uk. Nice and easy.
Absolutely fantastic. Guys, brilliant. Absolutely great. I'd love to have a panel with some of your clients on next. Certainly you've got some characters there and we need to have them on this show. So let's think of a couple of themes and let's get them on the next time, eh?
Amazing.
Thank you very much for your time here today. Again, thanks very much and best luck going forwards.
Thanks.
Good, Simon. Thanks a lot, mate.
Bye. Bye.
Cheers, guys.